just picture Lazarus waking up the day after and being like, oh man, still kind of smell a little bit, but I raised from the dead. My friend Jesus raised me from the dead. Like, I was dead. And everyone's like, oh, he was just sleeping, oh, he just, maybe he had like a low heart rate, and so we thought he was dead, so we wrapped him in the burial cloths and put him in this stone where he couldn't breathe for 4 days. I was dead, and I know that I was dead. And I came out looking like a mummy, and I am embraced by my two sisters who are just incredibly astounded. All they can do is just embrace me so much that it hurts. They're weeping. They're just so astounded. And there's Jesus after they're pulling off these burial cloths. He's just there. He's got his arms like this, and he's just smiling at me. It's like, hey, bud. I'm like, Jesus, I can't believe that you did that. And that in all of the circumstances that made it so that you invited me to be the one that you chose to perform this miracle on. I can't believe that you thought so much of not just me, but of all your children, all of them, that you invite us to come out of the grave. What a beautiful, miraculous thing that really just sets up what he's about to do in a couple weeks with his own body. That he is going to triumph the grave himself. It's not just that he's performing this miracle for another person, but that having died this gruesome death, then says, I am alive. And you are invited to be alive in my love. Encountering Jesus means we have to change. And that's not something that we like to do. But filled with that encounter, we're just so overwhelmed by what he's done for us that we're willing to step out of the grave. It's that willingness because we've experienced the true love of Jesus. It's not just in a book. He's not just somebody we talk about, but that he's somebody alive, that he's somebody that means so much to me, that I'm willing to put aside those things that keep me from him. I'm willing, because of the encounter, to change. We heard in the announcements today that many of you came to reconciliation on Tuesday, and it was beautiful to hear some of you, even just as you're walking in, talk about that encounter. Talk about how much lighter you feel, how much more encouraged you feel, because you've been united in a very special way once more to Jesus through his sacramental mercy. It's not that he didn't love you before. It's not that he won't understand when you struggle with sin in the future, but he was able to meet you right there in that intersection and say, can we take some of these burial bands off? Can we restore you to the life that is meant to be yours forever? He understands why we reach out in other places of sin, because we're hurt. But he was so, so happy to see that great courage that it took to come before some guy wearing purple and believe that he's able to be the face of Jesus and to receive your sins and throw them at the foot of the cross and give you once again that great privilege of being a daughter or a son of God. And if you didn't get the chance to do it, no shame. There's plenty of Lent left, right? And some of you are like, well, I know, right? We're not going anywhere. We still have more than a couple weeks left to be able to experience what God has in store for us in this sense of dying and rising. And not just during the Lenten season. You can go to confession all year. That's why we have priests to be able to have us and meet us where we are and to be able to just shuck off all of that grossness of sin and to restore you once again out of that grave. I don't think we think about this enough, but our world is dealing with this back and forth of dying and rising, of death in sin and new life in Jesus. We see it all around us, but maybe we're not aware of it all the time. My mentor and friend is a grandma, and she has a 5-year-old grandson, and she loves bopping around town with her grandson, right? Running errands, just spending time with him, maybe giving him some treats that mom and dad wouldn't want him to have, because that's what grandmas do, right? Grandma's the name, spoiling's the game. Yeah, it's just what you do. So, but my friend told me that more recently, they were just around town, not too far from here, and someone sped up alongside them and started throwing rocks at their car. And she was terrified. What do you think the 5-year-old felt? Later on, he said, Grandma, why do people hate us? All she did was buy a Tesla. Years ago. We live in this world that's filled with so much hate. We live in this world that's filled with violence. Far more violence than having rocks thrown at your car, all around the world, all around our city. This week there was a priest that was shot and killed in Kansas. Wasn't involved with anything bad, as far as we know. Everybody said he was a good guy. But there's a war going on for your soul, which I think some people aren't willing to admit. That when I choose death in sin, I'm entering back into that grave once again. I wonder why God's not meeting me in my life and my circumstances. Do you hear him saying to you, his friend, Lazarus, come out? Do you hear him beckoning you out of that grave? Where maybe it's more comfortable, maybe it's more familiar, maybe it's where you think you belong because of what you've done or what's been done to you. But he's saying, come out of that grave. I want you to live in the newness of life. I want you to live in the freedom of being a child of God. That's why I did all this. That's why we celebrate it year over year, because we want you to know that he loves you and is providing for you and is sustaining you. But he's not going to force himself into your life. Notice, Jesus isn't the one that rolls away the stones. It's the people that are so close to him that are willing to see and to trust, even though it seems ridiculous that someone should rise from the dead. Notice, Jesus doesn't go in and lift Lazarus' body out. No, he calls him out, and in freedom, because of the miracle that he's done in your heart, you have the willingness and the ability to respond. And the freedom that comes in that, in trusting, leaving behind some of those burial bands, leaving behind maybe an identity that the world has given you in death, is scary. But it's also so freeing. You know, I can say that in my own life too, that it's something that you have to continue to choose. Because when I go to reconciliation and I'm restored to that freedom of being a child of God and the remembrance of it, I have to keep going back. Not daily, not even weekly, but sometimes in an encounter just to be refreshed, to be reminded that I don't have to continue to choose maybe the thing that I think will satisfy, the quick jab, or maybe the negative comment, when the other basketball team loses, maybe just to kind of like, yeah. And I don't even know these people, but sometimes I just put all my worth in it. My dad sometimes, when somebody else gets theirs, he goes, "Nyeh," and I have inherited that trait, But we're working on it because I need to stop looking at the other person, maybe the other faction, as the enemy, and look at them as somebody that maybe perhaps could have their burial clause removed too. But I have to not be dead for that to happen. I have to be the one who is a Christian witness, like you all, to continue to choose to come out of the grave, and that's a daily choice. That's a daily encounter. Many of you have been reading our Lenten reflections, and they've just been so powerful to read and to be able to reflect on and to be able to say, like, I know her. She's awesome. I see her. I hang out with her sometimes. She's one of our students. She's one of our friends. She's one of our people that is willingly putting pen to paper so that we might be able to experience and be encouraged by what Jesus wants to do for us. Just today, not making this up in some general way, Laura, who loves green salsa, you should ask her about it, she said that there was a time in her life when she realized that she didn't want to be Catholic anymore. But there was a moment, she says, where I could feel the Spirit of Christ inside of me, all around me. The love in the room here felt like something I could pick up and spin around with. That was the day I realized that I was meant to be here in that exact moment. And everything before was worth everything. Sophomore in college. Not crying, it's fine. But to know that in this moment of coming out of the grave, that you can't do it on your own. That's why we pray. That's why we come together as a community. That's why we believe in faith, even though it doesn't make sense, even though we don't understand, even though I don't want to do it sometimes. I listen to the beckoning of my friend Jesus, and I come out of whatever grave I'm living in. So each of us has to ask ourselves, what are those graves? Because maybe they're tiny graves. Maybe they are big catacombs. And it's not all going to happen at once. But what if during this Easter season to come, we were just more mindful of the invitation that Jesus is giving to us? I come back to this. Who cares about chocolate? Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay? But to know that if I'm really living in that freedom of being that God's child, that I want to come out of that grave. I'm tired of trying to live in sin. I'm tired of not experiencing the love that Jesus has of me. I'm so tired that I'd be willing to die to death, see the paradox here, and rise to new life, which is what Jesus invites me to do during this season. And it's going to get hard when we turn the corner and start to see Jesus dying, literally dying in our liturgy. So much so that on Good Friday, we don't have Mass because he's not present in the way that we would maybe like him to, because he's in that tomb. But he's in that tomb to be able to say, I know what you're going through, and it's not what you're meant for. So will you please trust in me and come out of it? You still will have experienced, like Laura said, what went before. You might still even have those same hardships that you're facing. But perhaps living in the freedom, in the newness of life, in the perspective of Jesus, those things will weigh you down a lot less. And perhaps even the nail marks on your side and your hands and feet will be a witness to the other people not to choose to live in that death anymore either. Encountering Jesus means we have to change.